How's everybody doing tonight? Good, good. My name's Tom, and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is December the 9th, 1983. I've got a home group. I've got a sponsor. And I make a commitment to service in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. How long am I supposed to talk?
30 minutes. 4 hours.
Well, because I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, I'll be honest with you, I had a friend who went to work for the sheriff, and, he'd been a bank robber till he got sober, and after he did his prison time, and then he went to school and he became a counselor, like so many sober alcoholics do. And he went to work for the sheriff of Palm Beach County, Florida, and that's where I just came from 2 months ago. And I'm here now. And he said to me, he goes, I got this group in the stockade, and you spend a lot of time in this stockade, so why don't you come out, and speak for me? So I said, okay. And I went out and got in after we got through the bars and everything. And I said, well, how long do you want me to talk? And he said, these guys ain't going nowhere. And after 2 hours, he says, I think that's enough now. So my problem is not talking. My problem is shutting up. So you make sure you let me know when you want me to, give me a signal or something, And I'm not going to get into a big, long drunkalogue, which I can do, but I think everybody knows how to do that, I don't think you'd be in this room if you didn't know how to do that. And that's one thing we all got. We all got a story, and my story is pretty much, I can't ever remember a time in my life when I wasn't restless, irritable, and discontented. For as far back as I can remember, as far back, all the way back to, let's say, about 4 years old, I always felt like something was wrong. I never wanted to be who I was or where I was or doing what I was doing. I always wanted to be somebody else, be someplace else, doing something else. And I was a dreamer, I grew up in the cornfields in Illinois in the 50s. I'll be 65 in 6 weeks. And I used to lay in my bed at night, look out the window at the cornfield, and, in the 50s, those old black and white UFO movies, we had a lot of UFO sightings, And I used to sit there and imagine how a flying saucer was going to land out there in the cornfield, and they were going to pick me up and take me to the planet where I belong, where I would probably be made the king, because that's what I should be. I should be the king. I never seemed to fit in. I wasn't, the best at sports. If I struck out at baseball, I might throw the bat at you, especially if you smiled. I definitely would do something like that. I was always scrapping all the time with other kids, had a bad temper, so it was a poor sport, And I wasn't the best at book work. I spent a lot of time staring out the window. I'm Irish Catholic, so I grew up in the Catholic schools. The nuns started on me in the 2nd grade. I had a nun that used to grab me by my ears and shake my head violently. By the time I finished up the 12th grade with the Christian Brothers, they're using their knuckles on us. So, I wasn't crazy for the clergy. And, I never seemed to fit in until I found a certain group of guys who liked to steal and liked to wreck things. and liked to do vandalism and ganged up together. And the first gang that I was in the 5th grade. Little gang, little street gang we called the Ravens. In those days, you were either a surfer or a greaser. Those were the two kinds of gangs, you know. Greasers by hair, brother, okay? By hair. Not by nationality, but by hair. And I was a greaser, you know, but my father knew that, you know, if you put that grease in your hair, he knew what you were up to. So me and my brother would hide the grease in our black leather jackets in the alley, and we had a trellis. We slept right above the porch, and we'd go down in the middle of the night and go in the alley and get our grease in our black leather jackets and run the streets. When I was 13 years old, I found a bottle of wine in the woods that some other kid had stashed there. A big bottle of what we call Dago Red. Chianti, you know, the straw bottle. It was the middle of the wintertime. It was so cold outside that there was ice chips in the wine. And I sucked that bottle of wine down. And I can still remember the ice chips melting in my throat as the wine went down into me. And I thought, I better drink all of this before this other kid comes along and finds this. And I sucked that whole bottle of wine down, and I puked all over myself, and I went in a blackout, and I woke up in the weeds. And that's my drunkalogue, because that's the way the whole story goes. And there's a lot of drugs that are involved, too. I was told it was okay. I don't think anybody is offended by me talking about drugs in an AA meeting, because I can talk about it. You know, by the time the 60s started rolling around, people started getting turned on. They started washing the grease out of their hair, you know, and growing it long. You know, and people used to say to me, they'd say, you know, you got to smoke some pot. And I'd say, oh, no, I heard if you smoked that pot, you'd become a heroin addict. Oh, that's baloney. You're never going to be a heroin addict just because you smoke some pot. And I said, oh, no. I says, I'll stay with my beer, you know. But, you know, a funny thing happened. It got to be it was only me and one other guy that were drinking beer. You know, and we were ostracized, you see. And what had happened to me back there, you know, in the 5th grade when I started getting ganged up and I became a part of something, that was important to me. And I could not be in a place where I wasn't a part of something anymore. And so I told a buddy of mine, I says, okay, I'll get high. Let's smoke some pot. And we went all over town. We couldn't find any pot. And I was really disgusted, you know, because, I mean, it had taken a lot of pressure to get me ready to smoke some pot. And here, you know, we couldn't even find any. And he says, well, I got some mescaline. And I said, well, give me that. So took the mescaline, then we found some pot, then we smoked dope and tripped all night. And this was great because now I wasn't a puking, blacking out, falling down, waking up in the weeds all skinned up and drunk. Now I was a cool doper. And I fell in love with that, man. And instead of robbing the stores for whiskey and knocking the padlocks off of the beer trucks to steal booze, we started robbing the drug warehouse down on the river. The old McKesson and Robbins drug warehouse. We could jimmy the windows. We could climb inside. In those days, they didn't lock up any of the amphetamines or the barbiturates. They were right on the shelves. Bottles of 1,000 Turanols and Secanols and Amatols and Black Beauties and White Crosses and Dexedrines. And we'd fill gunny sacks full of them. And all we wanted to do was just, you know, sell the stuff so we could buy weed and acid. And my buddies said to me, he goes, you know, my brother, he's a Marine that just came back from Vietnam. He was on the Battle of Quezon. during the Tet Offensive, 1968. He says, and you know, he come back with a bad habit, man. He's shooting Reds all day and drinking a case of Bud and a bottle of Jack, you know, and I bet you he'll go for these Tuinals. So we took the Tuinals to him, and I watched him break one open and put it in a spoon. Did what was called cold shaking in those days, before the drug companies got smart and put a gelling agent in it. You could just put a little cold water on it and stir it up, you know, and suck it right up in the works. And he banged that. He looked at me and he said, "You want to try it?" And I said, "Yeah." When I saw the way he looked, I said, "Yeah." And I sat around and I listened to him tell all those stories about that lifestyle and about the drugs in Vietnam. And I turned 18 and joined the Army. Not because I was a patriot, but because I was a dope fiend. Because I wanted that. I wanted to go to Vietnam. I wanted to get those drugs. I wanted to live that lifestyle and get in that whole gangster scene that he was in. But you know, the Army's funny. They don't like to do things for you what you want them to do. They like to do the opposite. And so they sent me to Germany instead. But you know what? I found what I wanted. They told me, you know, before I went, they said, you know, they got plenty of hash over there, and they got plenty of morphine, they got plenty of crystal, but they don't have any hallucinogens. So I took 6 ounces of white mescaline with me. And I fell right in with the gang, you know. And I worked with the gang that ran all the drugs in Schweinfurt, Germany. And I did that for 2 years. I turned them all into junkies. They were just hash dealers. I turned them all into junkies so I could have morphine. You know, when I started out with a half a cc, and after a couple of years I was up to 5 cc's. And the Army was getting tired of us. The Vietnam War was coming to an end. It was 1973. And the Army was getting tired of us junkies and alkies. And they started throwing us all out. I was thrown out of the Army on a general discharge under honorable conditions for being a heroin addict. And I was locked up because I got hepatitis at the same time my orders came down, because they brought me back from the border. I was on the East German-West German border. And they brought me back to Schweinfurt. Nobody was in the barracks, and when the sergeant had come to get me, I thought they were always trying to bust me and put me in prison. They didn't want to give me that discharge. They wanted to put me in prison is what they wanted to do. And I threw my works into the bushes. And so when I got back to the barracks, you know, I had dope but no works, and nobody was there. And a guy came in and he said, I says, "You got any works?" "I got dope." And he goes, "Yeah, but they're the works I was using in the hospital. What happened?" I said, "That's okay. We'll wash the works out with some rubbing alcohol." See, we didn't know in 1973 that hep stays in you, even after you're well. And I'm shooting dope with that guy. 3 days later, my shit turns white. The skin turns yellow. And I come down with hep. I still have it. Still there in my liver. I have to keep, you know, an eye on it every 6 months, do my blood work and everything. It's probably lucky that I've been sober for 33 years. I'm sure that that's helped an awful lot. Or I wouldn't be standing up here talking to you tonight. You know, and I got clean because I was locked up 3 months in the Army hospitals, and they brought me to Miami because my old man who worked construction had taken them all when I was overseas down to Miami from Illinois to work construction. And they wanted to give me treatment, but I didn't want their treatment. I just wanted out of the damn Army. And so I walked out of the VA hospital. I had a duffel bag full of uniforms, and I threw them in the dumpster, and I said, "I'll never cut my hair or shave again." And I went to a cab driver and told him to take me to Pompano Beach, and he said, "You mean Pompano?" I said, "I don't know what the hell I mean. I never been in Florida before." Took me up to Pompano. My old man said, you can get a job down the street. They're building a water treatment plant down there. And they told me, don't drink. Don't drink. Don't do drugs because, you know, your liver's messed up. But, you know, I'm on the job, and I can't stand it, you know, because, you know, when you work construction, all you do on the job all day is talk about what happened in the bar last night. And then when you get in the bar, all you do is talk about what happened on the job all day. That's pretty much the cycle of a drinking construction worker, you know. And I didn't have nothing to talk about, and I was lonely. And I needed to belong somewhere, and I needed some companionship, so I started drinking. And me and another veteran were out at the VFW in Plantation, Florida one night at a dance, and we had our own bottles of vodka, and we got drunk as hell, and we got in a fight with each other. Because that's what I usually do, you know, if you drink with me, sooner or later, you know, I'm going to think you looked at me funny. And I'm going to smack you or hit you over the head with something. You know, I'm a nice guy, real nice guy when I'm drinking. And, you know, the last I remember, we were rolling around on the ground outside the club, beating the hell out of each other. And then when I came out of the blackout, my face was killing me. It was kind of dark, and I was in a hospital room on a gurney. And my clothes, I looked and my clothes were laying on a chair there. And the only thought that went through my mind was, I need to get out of here. I need to leave here and get out. I got up, you know, and there was a sink and a mirror there, and I looked at my face in the mirror, and my nose was smashed flat, split wide open. And my face was all black and blue. Put my clothes on. And I tried to sneak out of the hospital, but before I could get out, the nurses caught me. They said, where are you going? I said, I'm leaving. I don't got any money to pay you people. I'm getting out of here. And they said, oh, well, you can't go anywhere. What do you mean I can't go anywhere? You can't go anywhere. The state police are here. They want to see you. And I said, see me? For what? Did you ever get that look from people before when you say something like that to them? Like they can't understand what in the hell is wrong with you? You mean you don't know? Know what? You don't know that you hit a carload of kids out at Sample Road and Power Line in them days? You know, that's all populated now, but that was tomato fields in them days. Dirt roads. I says, I don't even have a car. They said, you were driving your buddy's pickup. I said, where's he? And they said, well, he went through the windshield. His whole right eyebrow was cut off down to the bone. We sewed that together, you know, and sent him home. And you broke the steering wheel with your face. That's what happened to you. But you see, the big problem is that there was a bunch of kids in that car that are going to need plastic surgery. You messed them up bad. And I was going to school on the GI Bill, because there'd been a big recession, and there wasn't any construction jobs. So I was going to school to get $300 a month, you know, from my GI Bill, mostly so I could stay drunk and party on. And there was a Korean War veteran, you know, that used to sit next to me in school. And he saw my face, and he asked me what happened, and he asked me, did I want to have coffee with him after the meeting, or after the class? And I said, yeah. He's going to buy me coffee. We went to McDonald's, and he asked me what happened, and he started talking to me about alcoholism. Nobody had ever talked to me about alcoholism before. He never told me that he was a part of this program. I come to find that out later. My first sponsor is a guy named Kenny. It was 1973. And on the bus riding home that day, I'm thinking to myself, you know, why do I have all these problems? Why can't I straighten my life out? Why does crap happen to me all the time? Because, you know, a whole lot of crap had been happening to me for ever since I first picked up that bottle of wine in the woods. And this little thought came into my head like a whisper, and it wasn't like in my voice, said, "You're an alcoholic like that man's talking about." And I said, "Yeah, that's what I am." And I went home and I got the phone book out. We used to have phone books in those days, you know. Opened to the first page, and I found AA real easy, you know. AA is right there. Intergroup. And I called up, and it just so happened there was a meeting right down the street that night from my house. And I went down there, and I had hair down here, and I had a beard like this, and I was 21 years old, and I'm standing in the bushes, and it's in a Catholic church. I ain't too happy about that. And I'm watching all these nice middle-aged people, well-dressed, going into the back of this church. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the hell am I doing here? These people don't look nothing like me. I'm too young to be here. I ain't like these people. And then the greeter saw me. You know, and he knew I was fresh meat. And he grabbed me. He said, "Come on inside here," you know, and he introduced me to all these nice older people, and they all started talking to me. You know, and that was nice that they were acting like they liked me. And, you know, and I wasn't used to people liking me. You know, I was the kind of guy that if you took me to the bar where you drank, your bartender would tell you, "Don't bother coming back if you're going to bring that son of a bitch with you." Because I'm loud, I'm arrogant, I'm obnoxious, and I'm a pain in the ass. And I'm going to start some shit sooner or later. Because I'm 5'7", and you put some whiskey in me, and all of a sudden I turn into 7'5". That's right. So I thought, this is nice, you know. But, you know, I got this idea in the back of my head. I thought, you know what? I got a lot of charges against me. And it'd probably be a good idea if I had some place to hang around. So it'd be good to hang around here. Especially when I have to get in front of the judge. So I hung around. The people would talk about these steps, you know, and I looked at them and I said, "Yeah, I got a problem with alcohol. Okay. I don't drink no alcohol. I don't have no problem. Case closed. I had a problem shooting dope. I don't shoot dope. I don't have no problem." You know, there wasn't no Narcotics Anonymous in those days in Florida. There was no place else for a dope fiend like me to go except to Alcoholics Anonymous. And for the benefit of dope fiends like me in AA, people in AA used to say, in Alcoholics Anonymous, we don't drink and we don't take any mind or mood-altering drugs. And I could hardly wait for the meeting to get over so I could go out and get in my car, reach underneath my seat, pull my bag of weed out, roll me up a nice big fat one, you know, and start toking on it. And I'd tell myself, this doesn't alter my mind or my mood, it enhances it. This is a mind-enhancing drug, not a mind-altering drug. Of course, I didn't have any sponsor to run that by. I never brought that up as a topic of discussion. Because you see, I ran my life. My life is not unmanageable. I ran my life. I have a quirk in me that came about a long time ago. That quirk was like this. Everybody wants you to act like them and talk like them and dress like them and be like them and do what they do, and I ain't doing that. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do. I'll pretend to be whatever you want me to be so I can use you to get what I want. See? Because you see, that's what I do. I'm a user and an abuser of drugs and alcohol and people, places, and things. Because I'm all about me. That's who I'm about. I'm all about me. And I got a right. I got a God-given right to get what I want, to make me happy. And I got to have that. I know how to run my life. I know what I need to do. I just need to get out of this shit I'm in. And so after about 9 months, 10 months of staying sober, I got in front of that judge. And that judge looked at me and he said, "What's your problem, son?" Well, I knew exactly what to tell him. I'd learned to say it in the AA meeting. I said, "Well, Your Honor, my problem is I'm an alcoholic." She said, "'Cause I'll tell you I'm an alcoholic. You want me to tell you I'm an alcoholic? I'll tell you whatever you want to hear so I can get what I want." See, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. But if you give me a break, I'm going to those meetings. I'm doing the right thing. You won't see me in front of you again, I promise you. Well, that little judge, he did the worst thing he could have done for me. He gave me that break. Because, see, I ain't the kind of guy you can give a break to. Because I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it and I'm going to use it. Him giving me that break set me up to spend the next 10 years of going in and out of the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had time in every one of those years. And every time, you know, a whole lot of things hadn't happened to me when I was 21 years old and I first showed up at the doors of AA. I hadn't been to jail yet. In the 10 years that I went in and out, I started going to jail more and more, till I was in jail all the time. And every time I got in a jackpot, I knew where to come to run to Alcoholics Anonymous so I could get my shit back, because that's all I was doing here. All I needed to do was get a license back, get a girlfriend back, get a job back, get a car back, get a place to live back, get some money back, get my folks off my back, get the law off my back, and then get back to doing what I wanted to do. Because I didn't need any of this. I like the name of this group, Rarely. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. I wasn't about following this path. I was about using this place and the people in it to get what I wanted. That's all I was about. That's not sobriety. That's just dry time. That's just hanging out, hanging in, till you can get out of the shit you're in, so you can go back to doing what you want to do. Because all the time I'm thinking about it. All the time I'm thinking about when's it going to happen, where am I going to get it from, who am I going to do it with, what's it going to feel like. That's the obsession, the thinking about it. But you see, I haven't done anything to take that obsession away. And the periods of time that I spent out there, they got shorter because I went to the bottom faster. And the periods of the time that I spent hanging around in the rooms of AA, they got shorter too, because it's hard to hang around in the rooms of AA and be so full of shit. And you know you're full of shit. You know in your heart you're full of shit. And then you're just playing the game. You see, the one thing that Alcoholics Anonymous did for me, it ruined my drinking. It ruined it. From the very first time that I came here, it ruined it. Because I never could drink again in good conscience. I knew deep down that I was an alcoholic. I just didn't want to do the work. Guy comes up to me, he says, you know what your problem is, Tom? Because, people in Alcoholics Anonymous love to tell you what your problem is, because they got the same problem you got. I said, no, what's my problem? He says, your problem is you think you're unique. I said, well, I don't think that's a problem. I mean, that's cool. That's the reason why my whole body's tattooed. So I can be unique. I don't want to be like you. He said, yeah, Tom. He said, but you know what? He says, you got terminal uniqueness. It's killing you. Now, I didn't think that was funny. AA tell you stuff all the time you don't think is funny. It pisses you off. And the reason it pisses you off is because it's the truth. It's the truth about you. But you don't want to believe it. You want to keep on living in your delusion. Denial. And I ain't talking about a river in Egypt. I'm talking about a disease. A disease that centers in my mind. And it's a talking disease. It talks to me. You know what it tells me? It tells me I know how to run my life. Not only do I know how to run my life, but I know how to run your life too. And I know the way life ought to run. It ought to run my way. I'm the guy who thinks that I can wrest satisfaction and happiness from this life if I can just manage it. Get what I want. If people just do things my way, then everything would be all right. What happened to me was I lost the power of choice. Progression had finally taken me to the place where I no longer could stop anymore. Didn't matter how much trouble I was in. In the end, my great idea for controlling blackouts was just keep shooting cocaine. If you shoot enough cocaine, you can drink all you want. The problem with that, though, is the cocaine is like a dam. And you get so much booze behind it, it just breaks all of a sudden, And I'd go down in the street somewhere. Come back out in the jail. And I'm sitting in that jail cell, and I'm sobering up, and I'm thinking to myself, what is my problem? Why can't I straighten my life out? And that whisper came back. Said, you know what your problem is, Tom? Your problem is you're crazy. That's what your problem is. The reason that you're crazy is because you think you know how to run your life. But you can't. But you believe that you can. And that's why you're insane. And I said, yeah. Yeah. That's the truth about me. The truth about me is that not only am I powerless over alcohol and drugs, but that my life is unmanageable. It means my thinking doesn't work. It means my way doesn't work. I'm sober 33 years, and my life's still unmanageable. But it's not unmanaged. It's managed by a power greater than me through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. See, I got alcoholism. I don't have alcoholism. It ain't never a wasn't. It ain't going nowhere. I woke up this morning with untreated alcoholism. And I have to treat my alcoholism every day. I once heard a guy say in a meeting, I never want to be a guy with too many years and not enough days. Because that's what this is about. For this alcoholic, this is about the day that I'm in. Because I always had one foot in yesterday and one foot in tomorrow, and I was pissing all over the day. I didn't know how to live in the day that I was in. My mind was always someplace else, wanting to be somebody else, doing something else, not wanting to be me. Today, I love me. I know who I am. I've known who I was for a long time now. I was a man who wasn't capable of love. Alcoholics Anonymous taught me that. An old man put my hand in God's hand. He said to me one time, he said, "You know what, Tom?" He says, "You think you're a tough guy, don't you?" I said, "I can handle myself." He said, "Well, I'll tell you who a tough guy was. Jesus Christ was a tough guy. He'd take whatever you threw at him and loved you anyway. Are you that tough? Are you tough enough to be like that? To love him anyway?" He taught us, he said, "You know, Alcoholics Anonymous, what's Alcoholics Anonymous all about? Alcoholics Anonymous is all about people. What are people all about? People are all about God. And what's God all about? God's all about love." Thanks for letting me share tonight.